Hi guys. Alright, so I want to talk about the Kratz press conference. So I'm not going to go into the details of what he said. I'm sure you've all seen enough of it. But of course, it's all over YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing. Unless you want to be sick, I wouldn't suggest it. But I just want to talk about the biggest problems with that I see. The police already had their suspect in custody, Stephen Avery, and now at this point they've got Brendan Dassey arrested for the same thing, different charges, but for Teresa's murder as well. They're not asking the public for help. They're not asking for tips. They're not asking for anything. They're just doing this for shock value. They're, in all the cases that I've ever seen where the police have press conferences like this, they might be asking for assistance, for tips, for clues, for anybody to call in with information, anything. But where they might give you some details, but they always withhold something from the public. They did that in this case. They did. They did withhold that, at least until after Brendan's confession. Hello, Draven. I have some notes here about this. This is just... The thing is that Stephen Avery had, in the public eye at the time the lawsuit was going on, innocent man, 18 years, everybody knows the story, blah, blah, blah. Most people looked at him as a victim, as, an innocent man who was charged with this terrible thing and spent so much time in prison for something he didn't do. Where later DNA proved that he was innocent and who was actually guilty. So a lot of the public looked at him as an innocent man. Oh my gosh, could he possibly be being framed again? That's something that needed to be dealt with. And I believe that this press conference and all of the smaller ones leading up to it were exactly for that reason, were to deal with the public's perception of Stephen Avery, to turn him from an innocent man charged with the crime, later found innocent, to this horrible, guilty sweat monster. And I think that that's what they did. This press conference was so detailed and so graphic. And I'm glad at least Kim Kratz asked for children to leave the room, but that was another... Because it was being broadcast live on all the news stations. All of them. Live. So yeah, please get your kids out of the room before we start this, because it really was way too graphic and detailed for any kid to hear. Unfortunately, kids did hear this. I know that there were some minors in the family, at least Brendan's and Stephen's family, that heard this. Of course they heard it. They heard that. They heard all the little news snippets on the media that were played, sound bites and clips of this press conference over and over and over. Everybody heard this. This was burned into everybody's mind about this horrible sweat monster. And, because Ken Kratz has made a really big deal about Stephen Avery being sweaty. And I know that is done to paint a picture of a monster. The thing that bothers me the most is that Ken Kratz and the sheriff, Poggle, they're sitting right there, seem perfectly okay with knowing that they are changing everyone in the public's opinion of Stephen Avery. they know very well that they're going to burn this horrible thing into people's minds, something that they cannot forget. This is absolutely unnecessary for the family and friends of Teresa to ever have to hear things like this, unless they chose to be present at that part of the trial where things like that might need to be talked about. But otherwise, in public, this is not something that the public needs to ever hear unless they go looking for it. So all this did was just unnecessarily hurt people that cared about her, change everyone else's perception of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, and taint the future jury pool. And we already know that that's what happened. We already know that at least one of the jurors who refused to participate had his mind made up on day one of deliberations that Stephen Avery's guilty because Brendan Dassey confessed. That's what he told a reporter. And that's going to be one of the things, I think, that gets them either at least a new trial, but this should have been a mistrial. This is not acceptable, because the judge should have given the jury very specific instructions, like they were asked, like the judge was asked to by the defense, to give the jury very specific instructions not to consider things like the confession, anything that they might have heard on the news or in the media before the trial. He did make it very clear to consider all the evidence that they've heard at trial, but he did not make a specific, special addition to that normal speech that you would give a jury before they go deliberate. The defense asked for that a couple of times at least, pre-trial and before the judge gave instructions at the end, because it was necessary to keep people like that one man who admittedly refused to get that part out of his mind, that Brendan Dassey confessed. Because they were not shown the confession. The confession was not shown on TV. The confession was definitely not shown at trial, and it wasn't talked about. So that should not have been one of the things that he considered when making his decision on whether Stephen Avery was guilty or not guilty. Not innocent, just not guilty, because innocent is not a verdict. That's really the biggest thing. Like I said before, they already had Stephen and Brendan in custody. They already had them being charged with these crimes. They didn't need help from anyone. They were purely doing this for shock value, for tainting the future jury pool. And I think it's so disgusting, because it caused so much damage to the community, who is still very much convinced, because that's still burned in their head. I know that because I still talk to people who live in the area. And, I love to talk to people who live there and who will not watch the documentary because they think it's disrespectful to Teresa, because they're already convinced that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are guilty. So I love to talk to these people because I know exactly why they feel that way, and I can't say that I would be any different if I was one of them who lived there and had to hear all of this as the trial progressed. Hearing about it coming up for months and having those sound bites replayed over and over for over a year, almost 2 years before the trial. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all for feeling the way you feel. I do not blame you for being angry and thinking that Stephen Avery's guilty. I don't. But I really wish that you would at least consider the possibility that was intentionally done. If nothing else, I'm going to make another video. I'm going to make several more videos. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to say. I've already talked about how Brendan's confession was not really a confession. And I know that that's the other major hold up, I guess, for people to admit that it's possible something's wrong here, and maybe watch the video and maybe look into the trial documents and things like that, just to see what they can come up with themselves. So thank you so much for watching. Also, Clue TV, very exciting stuff. So I'm sure a lot of you watch Casey Martinez's videos. She's given a lot of information about Clue TV. Basically, it is going to be something really awesome. I'm going to leave the links below. I'm going to make a separate video where I talk a little bit about more what Clue TV is going to be. But I'll leave the links to the website. I'll leave the links to the GoFundMe. And hopefully, you know, you guys can get some information on that and help us out, because that'd be great. Share it. Even if all you can do is share it, that's fine. Awesome. We're really excited about this, and getting this started would be amazing to help us do better work, have more people involved in getting this information shared and getting this information out there for not only Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, but all these other cases with wrongful convictions where someone needs help getting the word out. Get some attention on these cases so that someone like Zellner will pick them up and help these people. Unfortunately, I'm not an attorney, or I would do it myself, but, you know, yeah, I mean, there's so many people like Stephen and Brendan who have been wrongly convicted and need help. And we mean to expose those cases so that people can check them out for themselves, link documents, you know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon on Clue TV.